topic for this session is writing a research paper. Writing a research paper or writing a research article. As we know that publishing is one of the necessary steps embedded in the scientific research process. Before we will discuss how to write a paper, what are the major parameters need to be considered when we are involved into a publishing process, I pose a question to the participant that why we publish or what are the reasons for publication. From any center, any participant.
Ma'am, mostly for career enhancement and
Mostly for career enhancement.
and for appraisal system or everything you need paper, and our publications should be known to all, our work should be known to all over.
You're from which institute, sir? May I know your name?
Iviraman College of Engineering, Dr. P. Mapan.
Thank you very much, sir. Any another institute would like to add something?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm from Government Engineering College, Bharatpur.
Hmm.
Ma'am, I think paper should be published because the contribution to the research and development should be given to the society.
Contribution to research and development for the society.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
To disseminate the knowledge.
Yes, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Ji.
Research publications are basically the testimony of our research work carried out, and it establish authenticity of our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there are many reasons why we do publication. The most basic reason can be to get an educational degree, either MTech, ME or PhD degree, because at least one international paper is required to get PhD degree and one national publication is required to get ME or MTech degree in some of the universities and some of the institution. Another reason may be to get promoted. Higher your H index, higher the chances of you to get promotion. Means number of the citation of your research article, it is a proven record for your research publication, and the chances of your promotion is increased due to the authenticity of your research and publication. Another reason may be to getting fund from various funding agencies. The higher the citations you have, the more chances that your project is get funded. There are number of funding agencies in which there is a requirement that at least 5 publication is required by the researchers to get fund from that particular funding agencies, and one paper must be from international journal and 2 papers must be from national journal and other can be in conferences or other proceedings. So whatever will be the reason for our publication, the editors, the reviewers, publication houses and research community do not consider these reasons when they are assessing our journal articles and journal publication. So in this particular session, we will discuss how to choose a right journal for a publication. What are this general structure of research article or a research paper? What are the author's right and responsibility when he or she is involved into a publication process, and what is the effect of the plagiarism, and what are the ethics need to be considered when we are doing publishing. So motivation why we write papers. First one is science includes the dissemination of knowledge, or the purpose of the scientific paper is to contribute to the advancement of the knowledge. The journal articles and the papers are always published into a scientific manner. Means a rigid format is to be given by publishing house or the journal agency under which the paper is to be published in that specific journal. Why scientific writing? There are 2 basic reasons. First reason is the format is a mean of efficiently communicating the scientific finding to the broad community of scientists in a uniform manner. Whether he is an eminent researcher or whether he is a researcher at his or her initial stage, the paper must be understandable by all kind of researcher. That's why the papers are always The publishing house is always given a rigid format to be followed by the researcher when he is involved into a writing process. Another reason that is more important than the first one is that the format allow the paper to read at different levels. When I said read at different level, for example, when we are searching various research article on internet or online searches or in libraries, many of the people skim titles only to find out what information and what are the key area the paper is going to or the research article is going to address or in what particular subject. Other readers may read title and abstract. One reason that why readers are more involved into reading title and abstract only, because some of the paid journal, the title and abstract is easily available online, or more people are interested to read the those specific journal in which their interest area is to be mentioned. So most of the reader will cover title. Another group of readers may consider their information up to title and abstract, and those readers who wanting to go deeper may look the table, figures, results, and so on into that particular research article. Means the scientific format that is given by the journal article or by the publisher house help to ensure that whatever level a person reads your paper beyond title skimming, they will likely get the key results and so on. So another is purpose of a scientific paper is to contribute to the advancement of knowledge. Contribute to the advancement of the knowledge means when you are involved into a publishing process or you want to publish your paper into a scientific journal, always ask yourself a question that does it make sense to publish this kind of research, because all scientific journal get thousands of publication on daily basis, and a subjective calculation of the result is that 40% of the papers are rejected right away when the journals are received that particular paper by due to some plagiarism effect or due to some ethical issues that are involved into the paper, due to another reason that might the researcher is not able to follow the scientific format given uh, into that particular journal. So always remember your paper is a snapshot of your research work. When you are involved into publishing process, always consider these different parameters. When you should write a paper, first is when you have new ideas, new facts or data, and intelligent review of the old facts and old datas, or in some cases when you have mature results like research milestones completed and can articulate that result. Means a paper should communicate a novel, a useful and a innovative idea to the scientific community, and that helps the reader. Intelligent review of the old fact and idea means some kind of the review article that help the reader to go check the part of your paper and eventually use and cite your work in their research area or in their publications. And always present a mature result when you are sending an article to a publishing house, because the readers, when I said reader here, reader means the editorial board or the review committee members. They have limited time to spend on a particular article, and time should be used wisely. So your paper must be a concise snapshot of your total research work, and reading time means the time the reader must be involved into your findings, not into clarifying the issues, clarifying the statements, and the text must be presented into a useful manner. Another is when you should not write a paper, when your research does not provide a significant issues into the society or report of no scientific interest. When your findings are in general manner, there is no need to send your paper to international journal houses or at national houses with the highest impact factor. If your work is out of date work, means number of the scientific community are involved into that type of a research, there is minimum chances that your research is to be published in into a good journal, or duplication of the previous published work. When you're using a research publication of another researcher, always cite the name and research article of that particular publication. Otherwise, do not use the duplication of that particular publishing process. And when the results are negative, if there is a incorrect and unacceptable solutions specifically for various engineering stream, then there is no need to involve that kind of article into a publishing process. Whenever you are going to publish a paper, always keep in your mind that your published paper is a permanent record of your research. So being a researcher, you need to evaluate your work first before you are sending it to any journal publication. Next is, what are the different types of the paper? Depending upon the type of the paper, the researcher can choose the type of the journal for which he is sending his article. First one is the breakthrough journal. Solvent breakthrough journal. Example for this type of research paper is curriculum planning in engineering, energy engineering education. As the title represent, that breakthrough type of a paper solve an problem, open problem that many people have already worked on it. Those kind of papers are considered as breakthrough type of research papers. Next is the groundbreaking. Example for groundbreaking paper is novel user allocation scheme for full duplex multi-user bidirectional Li-Fi network. Means these type of papers open up a field or the area that is not well explored by the scientific community, and it places a firm foundation for new kind of innovation and generation of the new kind of technology and methods into that specific research area. Invention type of paper. Title for those type of paper, example like smart environment monitoring systems by employing wireless sensor networks on vehicles for pollution free smart city. Means there is a clear variation and innovation that appearing in their elegance. When your research study involves some kind of an innovative product or some kind of innovative methodology is to be introduced by the research scholar, that kind of papers are considered as invention research paper, and depending upon the type of the paper, the journal is to be chosen accordingly. Next is progress type of the paper. For example, efficient hydro energy production and operational management in residential building, the feasibility analysis. This is the paper that this is mine published accepted research work. That's why I didn't mention the name of the journal or the volume of the journal, because this publication is still accepted, not published. Progress type of the research paper means it solve an open type of the problem that have arisen from the recent work. Means some researcher have already worked on that particular green type of the building, and if the researchers is involved into the advancement of that particular study, those kind of journal articles are considered as progress type of journal articles or journal papers. Next is survey type of the paper. When there is a comparison, when there is a collection of the data. For example, exploring student purpose of uses and educational uses of the Facebook. When the researchers is involved into collection of the data through survey study, those kind of studies are, or those kind of journal articles are considered as survey papers. And last one is the review papers. Review papers are the journal articles having maximum number of citations. So for the initial researcher, it is always advisable that start your publishing process with the review type of the paper. Review type of the paper means number of the researchers have worked on that particular area. You just have to go through their study and analyze what are the results, finding, and what will be the future recommendation for that particular studies. For example, disposal of the waste tires for energy recovery and safe environment, a review. And according to the type of the paper, the journal is to be chosen. For example, for review type of the paper, the journal chosen by the researcher is energy conversion and management, because the tire that are disposed are used for recovery of the energy, and the perspective is to be taken in the terms of environmental safety. Another example is, for invention type of the paper, the article chosen is, the journal chosen is Procedia Engineering, because there is an invention of new engineering technology for that particular research. For survey type of the paper, the journal chosen is Computers Research, original research article, Computers in Human Behavior. The type of the paper and the type of the journal chosen is the first step to decide by the researcher when he or she is involved into a publication process. Next is, what is the structure of the paper? Structure of the paper means it is a necessary condition by the journal houses to compulsory follow the rigid structure or the scientific format given by that particular journal. In this particular session, we will discuss the general format when we are involved into a writing process of a journal paper. So it is estimated that this estimation is the in this estimation, the numbers are the subjective experience by various researchers. 80% of the reader will read title of the paper only. 15% of the reader will read abstract only. 4% of the reader will also read your introduction, and remaining 1% will meaningfully go through the whole paper. Means logical structure is compulsory to be followed by the researcher. And it's a famous saying that if you do not write well, why should reader believe that you was totally involved into your research publication and more careful when you are drawing results from your research itself. So writing right is the basic funda to publish your research publication into the authentic journals. So different section of the paper is, first one is the title. Title always involve the keyword of your study. Author names, affiliation. Affiliation means name of the institution where the researcher is working. Abstract. Abstract represent, for example, if I am writing a paper, my abstract will represent what do I do in nutshell of that particular research. Next is the introduction. Introduction basically represents the problem area of the researcher. Methods. What is the methods and procedures to be adopted to conduct that particular research study? If you are involved into a review type of the article, methods and procedure will be what are the various techniques, what are the various methodology the researcher is going to focus in that particular review. Results. Results means what did I find out with that particular research. Discussions. What does it mean? Acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is optional. It is represented in some of the journal, and some of journal did not consider acknowledgement as well as appendices for their publication. Acknowledgement means who helped me out, and literature cited means whose work did I refer to. This is the very general structure for any research article. So first one is the paper structure. Paper structure means title. Title will clearly describe the content of the paper. If your title is misleading title narrow the readership of that particular research article, because majority of the researcher or majority of the reader will find your paper via electronic database searches or with the help of different search engines on word found in the title. So in your title, clearly describe the keywords of your work presented into that particular paper. And title must be short, it must be clear and contain a description of your study. For example, the area study, the technology study, the treatment or the location of the site, and the response that is to be made. For the title here I have taken again two examples. First one is watershed management structure and decision. The title of the paper give us a look for the different areas and what are the techniques represented in that particular research paper. The area in this particular paper is the watershed area. watershed area, and the researcher is involved into the structure of watershed area and what is the decision making policy for the management of that particular watershed area. So all the keywords related to that particular research study is involved into the title of the paper. When we are making a title, always consider that it can be catchy but not at the cost of the clarity. For example, management and recycling routes in the plastic waste management framework, a word perspective. Plastic waste is a material in which many of the researchers have already done number of publications. So management of the once the waste is generated, how the waste is to be managed and what are the various recycling routes for that particular plastic waste. A word perspective means the plastic waste, the study is taken a global perspective as a whole for that particular kind of an waste. Another example for the title of the paper is Win, Lose or Draw, the fate of patent inventions. Win, lose or draw means why the patents are useful, what are the different advantages when the work is to be patent, and why the patents are to be drawn by the scientific community. So these are some of the examples related to the title of the paper. Another example is if I representation of my research study is like student beliefs and value. Student beliefs and value can be in number of characteristics or in number of terms. The number of the student may be vary for that particular kind of the study, but if I change the title, and the better title will be impact of the student beliefs and values for opting engineering education or perspective, means my title will clarify that the group of the student which I have taken for my research study is basically the engineering student, and what is the effect of their values and what is the effect of their beliefs when they are opting different kind of engineering stream. So title of the paper must always be clear, it must be catchy and represent the key words of your research study as a whole, because 80% of the reader community will read your article once they like the title of the research paper. Next comes to the abstract of the paper. Abstract summarize in one paragraph usually the major aspects of the entire paper in the following prescribed sequence. Mean the typical standard length of the abstract of the paper is a one paragraph, or we can say up from 200 to 300 words, and use active voice when possible, but much of the structure of the abstract is written into passive into past tense. It must be abstract must be concise, it must be complete in their sentence and sentences to get the point quickly. Means abstract never include the background information of the research study, it never included references or the cited work, incomplete sentences or abbreviation that is not easily understood by all kind of the research community or scientific community. Another thing to remember when we're involved into abstract writing is the abstract didn't include any kind of an figure, any kind of table or references to figures and tables in their structure. So when you are involved into the abstract writing, these are the following sequences of questions need to be asked. First question is the question you investigated. The question you investigated means what is the purpose. The purpose is always taken from the introduction part of the research study. The experimental design and method. And the major findings. When I said major findings can be the key results that can be qualitative as well as quantitative, or the trends from your results. If there is a comparison, if there is an analysis, some kind of a research study will involve into the effect finding of that particular phenomena, all kind of the major findings are to be represented into the abstract of your research paper. So a simple, and last is a brief summary of your interpretation and conclusion. So the simple rule of thumb to be followed when we are involved into the abstract writing is that if any another researcher doing a study on a similar kind of an research, is your abstract is useful for that particular researcher? Is the researcher able to find out, or there is a need by the researcher to go through your whole paper just by reading the abstract of your journal article. If the abstract does not clearly state the contribution made by the researcher and fails to attract the reader, then the reader may not get the chance that the researcher community or the science community will read the whole journal article. These are the basic things to be considered when we are involved into an abstract writing. Next is the introduction part. Introduction means begin your introduction by clearly identifying the subject area of your interest. When I said begin your introduction by clearly identifying the subject area of your interest. Subject area of your interest means when you are involved into writing an introduction for your research article, in first or second sentence of your introduction, always focus on the key area of your research study. For example, in students' belief and value paper, the word beliefs and values would likely to be appeared within the first one or two sentences of your introduction, so that the reader main focus must be on the primary subject matter and quickly without losing the interest or without losing the focus on your research article. If there is a too much discussion on the background information in the initial sentences of your introduction part, it can be possible that the reader may lose their interest to read your paper or read the introduction as a whole. So next is establish the context by providing a brief and balanced review of the pertinent published literature that is available on the subject. The key here is to summarize what you know about the specific problem area from the literature when you are involved into experimentation process or into various kind of the studies. For example, in student beliefs and values paper, begin the introduction at the level of values and belief in general. Means what do you mean by values and beliefs and how it affect the student admission rate into various engineering institution. Then quickly focus to the group of the student. Group of the student is the engineering student, so that the reader can easily understand the purpose of your paper and focus on the hypothesis that is made by the literature review by the researcher from the more general context to the more specific detail of your research study. Next is what literature should you look for in your review of what we know about the problem? What kind of the literature? When we are involved into a writing process, always start reading a very general or very basic and fundamental type of the literature study from various encyclopedias, from various lab manuals, from various research publications or research article that is particularly focused on that specific problem of that particular subject area. But do not cite these kind of fundamental studies in your publication process or in your journal article, because they contain the information that is very fundamental, that is already known by 95% of the readers of your discipline. So when you are citing a research literature, always focus on the efforts on the publication that with a higher impact factor, or the publication of the specific field area. Means the journals which are represented those kind of a specific study, only cite that kind of a literature in your research article and clearly state the purpose and or hypothesis that you are investigating. Means what is the purpose of this particular paper, what we present in this paper, what is the aim or the objective of that particular study. Always present these type of the information into the introduction part of your paper. So what are the material? Next structural part is what is the material and methods. What is the material and method? Means the area that is to be studied. For example, in the example that I have taken into title is watershed management structure and decision. Watershed management structure and decision means watershed area. What area? In which state? What was the location of that particular area for which I am studying the watershed structure? a description of the study site, experimental or sample design, from where you have chosen your sample, what was your population area, what was the size of the sample, and what are the various design parameters when you are involved into experimental type of the study. What are the variables, what are the controlled variable, what are the independent variable, and protocol for collecting the data. Is it a lab study, is it a survey study, or a case study? What kind of the data is to be collected for that particular research, and how the data is to be analyzed by the researcher. How the data is to be analyzed means, is there a numerical analysis of the data and statistical involved into statistical analysis of the data, and how this data is to be well presented in the form of tables, in the form of figures, or in the form of the graphs, how we represent the data into the paper. Next is results. The body of the results section is a text-based presentation of the key findings, which include references to each of the tables and the figures. Key questions always, key results are always depends upon the question or the hypothesis that is made into the introduction part of the study. That might include the obvious trend to be followed in that particular journal article. That might include the important differences and similarities or correlations. If, for example, if the study involves statistical analysis, always remember that when we are writing a result for the journal article, statistical analysis can act as an analytical tool to find out the result. But when we are presenting the result into the article, it is always into a sentence form, and the final figure is to be given into the result section, not all the details of analysis of the data. So do not. And next major thing to consider when we are writing involved into the writing the result section of the journal article is, same type of an information or same type of the data is not to be given into the table and figure. Either you use table for that particular data presentation or convert the data into different kind of the graph. And because if you are presenting same data again and again in the form of tables and in the form of figure, this is considered as redundant and waste of time and waste of energy of the researcher as well as the reviewer committee. Next is discussion. Discussion must relate your work to the findings of other studies, including previous studies you may have done and those of other investigators. Means in discussion, the fundamental questions need to be answered is, do your results provide answer to the testable hypothesis that you have made into your introduction section? If yes, how do you interpret your findings here? And do your findings agree with what others have shown? Because in discussion section we always consider the studies by another investigator also. And give your conclusion means what is the new understanding of that particular problem, what you have investigated by that particular research, and what is the outlined in that particular introduction. Citation and references. Citation and references is depending upon the type of the journal or the type of the scientific format that is to be chosen by the particular journal for the publication. But the journal citation and references is like, use the best and most up-to-date literature, make sure it is relevant, do not overdo it, and avoid self-glorification. Avoid self-glorification means if you have published a number of papers already, being a researcher, it is your duty not to self-glorify yourself. You can mention your research article in your further research, but always cite it and minimize the use of your study in your research articles. Must be correct and complete citation information. Always collect the information for the literature from the authentic journals also. Google is good, Google is great, but when you are finding a shopping sites or finding a restaurant for yourself, not for the publication process. When you are involved into a publication process, always cite the journal that are authentic journal with impact factors and with the highest citation rate. So this is about paper structure. Any query from the participant from any center regarding the structure of the paper?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, this is Government Engineering College, Bharatpur.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, I want to ask one thing regarding affiliation of the author. Ma'am, is it
Affiliation of the author.
necessary to be affiliated with the college? A freelancer can't write a paper?
Yes, sir.
Can't write?
90% of the journal required affiliation
Okay, ma'am.
from the institution.
Another thing is there, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes, sir. You are audible to me.
okay, ma'am. You said that an author should always refer the previous work. But in the case of ground-breaking research work, how can an author refer the previous work?
Sir, when you have chosen a groundbreaking type of the paper article, it's not that you are involved into a fundamental type of the research. You are not creating any kind of a new law or a new theory. For engineering, it is an application based research always. But what are the fundamental techniques? What are the basic finding you are involving to generate that new innovative product or generate new kind of a methodology? For this, you have to focus on the authentic publications only.
Ma'am, in such a case where the previous work is not available and the work is totally new, so
Sir, here I have taken an example. For example, I am not Einstein. I am not generating any kind of a fundamental theory or fundamental law. But if I am doing research on that particular area, my authenticity is I can publish the reports that are published by the Einstein and the work cited by them.
then, ma'am, how Einstein can produce a paper?
Sir, Einstein have produces number of theories and his work is cited enough. And that is the authentic publication detail. For example, if you for writing any kind of a research process, these issues otherwise we will discuss in the next section of our slide. But for your clarification, for example, if I am involved into a publication process for writing process, for example, I want to do research into the area of green building. For green building, there is a fundamental theories, fundamental designs that I've already built, and I want to focus on the water level or the water uses of that particular green building area. For my case, when I involved into the literature citation of that particular study, my role is to check the journal that are present into elsewhere, that are present into scientific journal or into national and international conferences, rather than I'll involve into the citation of the PDFs that are available on Google or the number of the websites, Wikipedia, Google are not the authentic sources for do publication. For publication, you have to involve the work with the high journals that are authentic journals that are run by a renowned publication houses or under any kind of a scientific agencies, not directly from the lab manual or from the PDFs.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good ma'am.
Any another question from any center?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ji. From which center, ma'am?
I'm from Sukhmani Polytechnic College, Keravas.
Good morning, ma'am.
Ma'am, you have used the word impact factor.
Yes, ma'am.
Kindly explain this term.
I will explain all these parameters in my next slides, ma'am. Any another question related to the section of the paper?
Madam, excuse me, madam.
Yes, sir.
Madam, what is the difference between citation and reference, madam?
Citation and references.
Yes, madam.
For example, in a review type of the article, the reference, if I'm using that particular research article for my research publication, the references that is already mentioned. Energy, the name of the journal, volume number, issue, and name of the author. This is considered as a reference. Citation means when I use this study, I cited the research of another research scholar into my publication. When we discuss the further section, all these things will be clarified to you. Can we move next now?
Yes, madam. Okay, madam. Thank you, madam.
So, how to select the right journal for your publication? When we are involved into a writing process, First main focus is whether the problem is of national interest or the international interest. National interest means the research area that mainly focus on the local area or the local problem of your scientific community. If you are addressing those kind of a problem, always focus and find out the journal for national publications. But if your research is of international interest, or the scientific community need to know more at a global level, then only you can choose for an international journal publication. Another thing is, if you know that your research findings are much appropriate for international level of representation, it is always advisable to write a single paper for that research publication and send that public paper or article to the international publication journals, instead of writing 2 or 3 average paper and sending them to the national journals. So first area to focus is whether your problem is a national type of a problem or a local problem, or the area of your research studies of an international concern or international issue. The first thing to consider when we are selecting a journal is match between the subject of your article and journal aim and scope. When you're online searching number of the journal articles on a Google or on various website, in a journal introductory page, there is always a aim and scope of the journal that is mentioned on the introduction area. There are journals that are very specific about their subject area. For example, if I need to send my paper of watershed management area, I need to select a journal from hydropower generation or the journal that is related to the issues of civil engineering, specifically in watershed area. So when you are choosing a journal, always study what is the specific area or what is the subject area the journal is interested in, and within that particular subject area, what is the main area or the particular aspect of the subject the journal is focusing on. For example, exploring student purposes of uses and educational uses of the Facebook, the journal chosen is the human behavior. And for smart environmental monitoring, the journal chosen is procedure engineering. Means, and for disposal of the waste and energy recovery from the tires, the journal chosen is energy conversion and management. Means, what is the specific subject area of that particular journal, and in that particular subject area, what is the main focused area or the focused aspect of that particular subject. Next is, finally confirm that the target journal accept the article type you tend to submit. If your title represents somewhat kind of a different study and you have chosen a different type of the journal, maximum the chances that your publication is rejected by that journal house because of the wrong selection of that particular journal. Next is readership and the target audience. Readership and target audience. When we are deciding the readership and the target audience for your research study, there are two main focus area. First one is the specialty type of an journal. Specialty type of the journal means the journal that are highly specialized into some kind of a technical area or some kind of an research area. So if your study is focused on a particular area, for example, for computer graduates, if the study is on Wi-Fi, so you need to select the journal that is related to the network simulations or network signaling. Or for in my case, if my focus is for the disposal of the waste material or development of new kind of technology in the field of environmental engineering, my main focus or my specialized journal will be the Journal of Environment and Development. And energy related issues must be covered under the Journal of Environmental Energy Recovery area. In case of if I'm doing study into different pollution related area, for example, if I have taken a study on air pollution, so my main focus area or my main journal is the Journal of Air and Environment. So depending upon the type of the study, if your study is specifically a technical study in a special area, you need to identify the readers, You need to identify the readers, then you have to select the journal of that particular kind. Sometimes reaching to the right audience is more important than reaching to the wide number of the readership. Right kind of the audience can cite your work again and again instead of the readers who read your article just for their increase or awareness of the different knowledge parameter or different techniques. For citation, you need to target on a type of an audience and what kind of the readership you want to involve for your research article. Another main focus area when you are focusing on writing process is multidisciplinary journal. Multidisciplinary journal means your research study or your paper uh, could be possible include a any kind of a public policy, or could change the way, for example, the faculty, how the faculty handling the student of various engineering stream. So this kind of the journal, there the number of the readership is more rather than the number of the citation. So these type of the studies can also cater non-technical type of the audience as well as the technical type of an audience. So when we are selecting a readership and the target audience, always consider the specialty journals or multidisciplinary journal. Which kind of an research study is best fit to what kind of an target audience? Is it for technical type of an audience only or non-technical type of an audience only? Next is the visibility of the journal. Once the paper is published, it should be easy to find out by the another researcher. So journal visibility always play an important role for the researcher. When we said journal visibility means is the journal available online? For example, I can assess number of journal articles into different subject area when I log in into Science Direct journal. Number of research articles can be assessed by me when I involved into elsewhere type of an journal or journal of an scientific interest. So is the journal available or visible online? If the journal visibility is maximum, means there is maximum chances that your work is to be criticized, your work is to be appreciated by number of the researcher. And impact factor is again an important parameter need to be considered when we are selecting a journal for the study. Next is CV value of the publication. CV value means curriculum vitae value of your publication. Curriculum value of the publication means what are the members of the editorial board for that specific journal. If I have chosen a prestigious journal usually have eminent researcher in specific technical areas as a member of their editorial board. When you are sending your research publication to a specific journal.
Madam,
Yes, sir.
Madam, how do you distinguish between a national and international journal?
National and international journal.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I answer your query after this particular slide?
No, actually, as we are discussing about the CBO publication, that's why I asked. And the term what you use, the prestigious, how we can distinguish a journal which is a prestigious one?
Journal prestigious journal means the impact factor and authenticity of that particular journal. For example, you are sending your publication to you received a mail from any n number of journals and you submit your research article to that particular journal. The next morning you received a mail from that particular journal that the submission of this much amount of rupees to that particular account and your paper is published in that particular journal. And means this journal is for increase the publication rate and collecting the money only. Another example is prestigious journal is always represented with their impact factor. When I said impact factor is actually based on the impact factor is always calculated on the basis of the 2 years of citation of that particular journal. Impact, for example, in 2009, if the researcher use the studies that is published in that particular journal and cited that research study in their publication. For example, in 2009, 187 citations of that particular journal in different studies, and in 2000 and in 2008 the citation rate was 318. When I cite citation means I read an article, I read an research article, I found that article is suitable for my research study, and I refer and I mention the name of the author along with the study for my research introduction and for my literature review for that research publication. Means I am cited the work of the another researcher into my research study. And impact factor means, for example, in 2008 the number of the citation for for journal is 318, and in 2009 the number of the citation for the journal is 187. The impact factor, the sum of total citation is, for example, 187 plus 318 is 505. The impact factor is number of the articles published, that is, for example, 54 articles are published in 2009 and 46 articles are published in 2008. Means total articles published within 2 years in that particular journal is 100 articles, and number of citation is 505. So the impact factor for that particular journal in 2010, the impact factor is calculated as number of the citations divided by the number of the articles published in that particular 2 years of the study. 505 divided by 100 means 5.05 is the impact factor of that particular journal. Another thing is consider when we are considering an impact factor. Impact factor is a hype generated into a scientific community, but it is a clearly mentioned by some of the scientific community that review type of an articles, the journal that specifically focus on review type of publication, their impact factor is higher than groundbreaking or innovative type of an journal. If you want to go by impact factor only, then you have to focus also on review type of the study to get higher impact factor. Highest the impact factor means maximum number of the scientific community uses and authenticate the study that is given in that particular type of the journal. Mean that journal is a prestigious type of a journal and is authenticated by number of the publication houses. Another example here I have taken for impact factor is, for example, in elsewhere there is a software. For elsewhere publication, they uses a software called Scopus. In Scopus software, that software is applicable for from 1996. Before 1996, they don't have the complete record of the citation of different article into various journals. Scopus article. Once the researcher is submitted the article to elsewhere journals, the Scopus analytical tool check the study of the calculate the citation rate of that particular researcher. If the citation rate of that researcher is not there, means the researcher is new to that particular area, they analyze the work he or she has cited into his or her research study. What kind of the journal he have chosen for the literature survey, what kind of the study he consider as a fundamental for his or her own study. So depending upon the citation rate of the journal and impact factor of the journal, the publication house first decide to submit or reject your manuscript for that particular journal. Am I clear, sir?
Ma'am, this is Amitav from Dronacharya, Greater Noida.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Ma'am, is this impact factor is the single measure for a repute of a journal? So I know several journals which are of good repute, but they do not have any impact factor. There are several journals which are.
Rightly added, sir. You rightly added this remark that impact factor is not an overall factor to check the authenticity of that particular journal. There are number of another factors too. For example, there are tools that is SNIP, SNP tool, SGR tools that are also available online to check the authenticity of that particular journal.
And there are several journals which claim to have impact factor, but if we go
But
through
they are
the
not at
content,
all authentic.
if we go through the content of those journals and those articles, we find that the contents are very inferior. So how can we check the authenticity of the impact factor? Means there are so many online journals which claim to have impact factor
So when we
8.3 and
further move to our
9.1.
next slide, that is refine your research strategy. In this particular slide, we will discuss all these issues.
Okay, okay, thank you, ma'am.
Madam, our question was still there, the national and international journal.
From national and sir, in this particular slide, I will show you the slides by which you can decide which journal is national and which journal is international.
Madam, my
We will
question,
discuss all these issues.
madam, our main
If you want to clarify now, I can clarify.
okay, okay.
Okay, ma'am, continue.
When we are discussing the impact factor, sir has rightly added that there are number of more analytical tool which can be used to calculate the authenticity of the various journal. But in this particular time slot, I cannot go this much of detailed study for checking the authenticity of the journal. If you have any kind of query related to this particular session, you can mail me. I'll answer your query. Next major, the journal parameter need to be considered when we are involved into a publishing process is an H index. H index is calculated and is based on the citations received by citations or the impact of the researcher publications contribution moreover into their life history. H index is more focus on the promotion, more focus on the awards and the project and the number of the citation that is received by the researcher. It has nothing to do with the authenticity of the journal. How many researchers cited your paper, that is your H index. For example, if 10 number of members cited my study, means my number is H index is calculated by this particular method. H index is again simply calculated by going to Google Scholar websites. You can check that particular statistical analysis of the H index. We was discussing CV value of the publication.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, can we relate these two indexes with the quality of paper published? Can we say like higher impact factor journals are publishing higher quality papers?
It's not at all compulsory, sir.
Okay,
As
so,
I have earlier discussed that impact factor is a general phenomena to check the authenticity of the paper, but there are vast number of resources and vast number of tools available to check the authenticity of the paper. For example, in Science Direct type of the journal, in elsewhere type of the journal, the impact factor uses as Thomas impact factor. Those factor calculations are different from the simple impact factor. It is a general review to check the authenticity.
okay, ma'am, thank you.
We was discussing the CV value of the publication. When we said CV value of the publication means what are the editorial board member of that particular journal. When you are involved into submitting your manuscript to a particular journal, always have a look on the editorial team member of that particular journal. If the editorial members are from that specific field area for which you are submitting and submitting your manuscript for the paper, there are maximum number of the chances that your study is to be published in that particular journal. And which agency, which sponsoring agency and which type of the society related to your field sponsor that particular journal. For example, IEEE journal. IEEE journals are the authentic national journals, means they have taken the study at the national level and the studies are taken from the various technical field. So IEEE is the authentic journal for the national publication in your specialized area. Another example is Journal of Environmental Engineering. Journal of Environmental Engineering can be national, can be international depending upon the ISSN number and DOI number. I'll not go much into detail of these digital object identifier or ISSN series detail. These are the numbers and these are the digital library units given to check the authenticity of the journal. If any of the participant have query related to the authenticity or details of the content of the journal, he can send me an mail. I'll answer that particular thing.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
There is a question. How journals are different from transactions?
How journals are different from?
Transactions. There are IEEE journals as well as IEEE transactions.
IEEE journals and IEEE
Transactions also.
collection.
So
Collection can be a manuscript. Collection can be a case study.
not collections, it is transactions, IEEE transactions.
What is that? IEEE? Can you
Transactions.
repeat, sir? Transactions.
Yes, yes, yes.
The journal will publish your research publication or will accept your manuscript when they find something new, they find something novel, or they find something useful for the society at national level or at international level. Whereas in case of IEEE transaction or transactions or articles accepted and press releases by various journal, it is just to increase the awareness level of the scientific community, to increase and to focus some kind of the scientific techniques that can be used by a number of the research. This is the basic.
Thank you, ma'am.
So next is refine your searches. When we are involving into publishing process, we collect literature for our introduction part. We collect literature for the review studies. We collect literature for the citation of various research publication into our process. So first one is the libraries. Libraries are the portals of the word knowledge, and libraries make sure that the knowledge contributed by the scientific community is collected, recorded and safe, and for the future even as the information storage devices and for the format changes. For example, if you want to know the fundamental or the basic of any kind of an research theory, you need to go to the library, check the books and the various articles published on that particular research. To clear your basics, to clear your fundamentals related to that particular research area, you need to focus on the content that is already published and stored into the libraries. And in nowadays, there are open access resources and online resources also available into the library. I have mentioned some of the examples. For example, this particular slide is the representation of the Central Library from Indian Institute of Technology, Bhubaneswar. Means while sitting on your desk, you can access number of online resources available and online libraries in which number of the work that is already published, books, journal articles are mentioned. You can browse that particular content, and how you get into that particular research, that is already mentioned into this particular screen. To log in through EZ proxy server, use your institute email ID, and user ID and password is your mail ID and password. Means to check the online library resources, the access is very much simple if you want to use the resources of different institution. One example is from IIT Bhubaneswar website. Another is you want to do the online searches, simply search from the Google engine that online library resources available. Number of the websites open for that particular for the online library available in that particular area. Next is when are involved into different kind of the searches. Always, for example, if I am going to the elsewhere journal, sorry, for ACS organization publications. For ACS organization publication, I want to know this national journal focus on what kind of an area, or this publishing house publish what kind of an journal. From A to Z, the list of the journal is already given. Journal of American Chemical Society, Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, ACS Catalyst, ACS Central Sciences. Means from that particular uh, internet access, I can know aware that these are the various journals and these are these type of the publication in which this particular publication house is to be involved. Next is if I go to the elsewhere site. Elsewhere site, there is a icon that is books and journals access for the researcher. If you go to that particular website, you can identify number of the books and number of the journals that are available on the elsewhere sites. Another example is when you are involved into research to the particular area, simply check top 25 searches into Science and Direct, top 25 searches by scientific community in that particular research area. So the number of articles that are cited by the researchers again and again, this and the articles that are in today and are in competition or the area of main focus for the researcher. The Google will tell you number of the websites and number of the articles that are in for today. Next, we can search for top cited articles. How many articles are to be cited in number of years, and what are the researchers and who are the scientists that are involved into those kind of research studies. Next important tool to know for journal publication is the almetric applications. It can be possible that your research study will take 1 or 2 year of the period for your publication. Here I would like to share my experience for publication for you. For example, one of my paper is accepted by Journal of Environmental Engineering. For that particular journal, it's a study of international concern. The topic was to study the number and variation of the heavy metal present all over India into different groundwater resources. I have submitted that particular study in Journal of Environmental Engineering first in January 2014. After the acceptance of my manuscript, the journal sent a revision, 22 revisions or 22 comments by the reviewer for that particular study. After completing that 22 revisions, the journal again accepted my manuscript on 30th April 2016. In that case, my title of the study was to study the groundwater variables or groundwater heavy metals present in different Indian states, and my main focus was on heavy metal content. Since the groundwater resources are polluted with the heavy metal and chances of those pollutions are not very much into number of the year, so this publication is not at all an out of date publication even after this much of revision. If you are focusing on a study that is current today, but after 22 revision, for example, after 1 year of the acceptance of your manuscript, if another researcher publish that similar kind of the study in another journal, then your study is considered as a out of date study for that particular research concern. After the acceptance, after 22 revision, the manuscript was accepted on 30th April in 2016. The journal give me feedback on 3rd May 2016 that your publication is to be accepted for this particular volume and for this particular month. And again, after the acceptance, the publishing house again sent me a mail that number of the reviews are again collected for your particular study and you need to revise the manuscript and send back to us. And I have received again an acceptance on 1st June 2016. Means publication is a rigorous process. The submission of the first manuscript was on January 2014 and acceptance and publication date is released by the journal on 1st June 2016. If you want to publish your publication into international kind of the journal or journals related to Science Direct, journals related to elsewhere, you need to be little patient because the journal need to revise your manuscript again and again. There are chances that at best your publication is accepted after the revision, and the worst chances can be even after the 22 number of revisions my journal is outrightly rejected by the publication house, depending upon the choice and depending upon the comments given by the editorial board. So while we are involved into publishing process, this kind of an experience can also be faced by the researcher. Another experience is for one of my paper title which is accepted not published for the Journal of Environment, Development and Sustainability. You are kindly requested to check the website for the possible reviewer attachments, and the reviewer comments are mentioned below. And the reviewer comment for that particular study is, first one is first reviewer said that it may consider this paper as a case study for the residential application. It is better to present the complete layout as a schematic diagram. This particular study was on efficient hydro energy building design, a word perspective, and according to the one reviewer, the layout of the building must be represented into schematic type of the diagram. And another comment is, it is better to include some graphical results additionally to have better understanding, and quantitative analysis of the data in detail is required. There are chances that publication house need your raw data for their better understanding and for better reviewing your total research study. So almetric application is one of the tool that is used nowadays by number of the researcher to know the new innings of that particular study. What is almetric applications? Almetrics application is also known as alternative metrics. These are the metrics that are, these metric represents the indicator of the impacts and indicators of the engagements, and define the list of number of resources. For example, almetric type of application will give you number of public policy document. It will give you mainstream sections of the research area, various social media sites. When I said social media site, means blogs related to the research, tweets related to the particular research area, and post publication review. What are the various experiences by another researcher? The researcher shared their experiences with the help of the blog, with the help of the tweet. They blog new innovative product design on that particular site. You can check, and there are number of the sites available. Here I have taken an example of Impact Story. Impact Story is a web-based application that make it easy to track the impact of a wide range of an research artifact, such as paper, data sets, slides, and research code. Means number of the presentation related to a research topic, number of the papers published on that particular research area is shared by the researcher on that particular website. Another almetric application examples can be Reader Meter, Science Card, PLOS Impact Explorer, or Paper Critic and Crowdometer. These kind of applications are available online. You can check this particular website and find out what kind of a new innovative research areas are in today, and what is the rate of criticism and appreciation of what kind of a research area and into what field, so that you can make yourself aware of your scientific surrounding. The research you are focusing today, it might be possible that is the out of date publication for various researchers. And next is how the referee evaluate your paper. First one is purpose of the refereeing. Purpose of the refereeing is to select only the paper of highest quality. If you simply copy paste the literature and cited that literature into your research publication, the publication house will eliminate your paper right away. And nowadays 40% of the paper received by various publication houses are rejected outrightly by the editorial board because of the plagiarism check. And topic specialist in editorial board members, who are the persons who are involved into that kind of particular study, what are their area of specialization. And sometimes the editorial board send you a sheet to answer these kind of questions. First one is briefly summarize your paper into 2 or 3 lines. Means they want to extract the main theme or main area of your research study. If you can't represent the main area or main theme into 2 or 3 lines, there is probably something wrong within that particular paper. What is the new and significant in the work related? New and significant is already mentioned. Would it stimulate further work in this particular area? Means does it innovative? Does it interesting for another kind of scientific community? Is it timely to the community? Or is it reasonably increment that keep the researcher area going? How does it relate to the existing work? Means the references, the bibliography, the background, and the important omissions you have included into your references section of the paper. Some of the publishing houses also check the references that you have mentioned into your research article. How reliable are the method used? For example, when you are putting referencing for your review type of the article, for review type of the article, the studies can be taken from the last 30 years, from the last 40 years. Review article is not on the basis of the 2-3 years of study or 5 or 10 years of the study. More the number of the year added into the references section and the literature cited into your research area, more the chances of your publication is to be accepted by various journals. How reasonable are the interpretation? There must be a good argument built between the qualitative and quantitative analysis of the result, and can an experienced practitioner in the field duplicate the result or the paper of the references? Ethical issues need to be considered by the community. Now, what are the ethics? Why the ethics need to be considered when we are involved into a publication process? There are two different parameters. First, when we are studying ethics for publishing, first one is the author rights and second one is the author's responsibility. Author rights, the rights that are given by the publication house. When the paper is to be published by the journal, there are some of the right that is given by the author depending upon the type of the journal. In journal, the rights are teaching, means the researcher can use their manuscript or use their research article or printed or electronic copy into their classroom teaching. They can use their research article on and upload that particular pre-published article into their institution website as an educational material. They can share their article with their research colleagues. They can use that particular article for the to share them with the attendees of different conferences, and the right to post the preprint copy of various journal articles on the website. And further work means those articles can be cited into your next research publication study. Those articles can be expanded as book chapters. Those articles can be used into various thesis or various publication processes by another researcher. These are some of the rights that are given to the authors by various publishing house. Now, what are the author responsibilities? First responsibility is reporting the standards. When I said reporting the standard, it is the sole responsibility of the authors of the paper to check the authenticity of the results, and the objective of the discussion must be an significant issue. Next is data access and retention. As I have earlier mentioned that it is possible that editorial member can call for the raw data from your research study and provide that particular data for the public access. So be ready to share your raw data of the study with the editorial board when you make your mind to publish your research study into various journals. Next is originality and plagiarism. Originality and plagiarism means make sure all the authors of the paper make sure the work is originally written by them. If not written, at least checked by them. If other work is to be used in your research study, always cite and quote the name of the authors for that particular research area. Next is multiple publication and multiple resources. Once you have submitted your manuscript to a journal, it's the duty and the responsibility of the author to wait for their correspondence. If they reject your manuscript, only then there are chances that you can send your paper or your manuscript to another publication house. As in the case of the funding agency, when you are granting fund and you are preparing and sending research proposal to the various funding agency, it can be possible that you can send your research proposal to number of the funding agency and track simultaneously the results and reviews given by that particular funding agency. But in case of publishing of the research article, once you selected a journal, if the journal is not ready to select your paper, only then you can send your paper to another journal. Otherwise, you have to wait for the results and review comment of that particular editorial board. Next is acknowledgement of the resources. Proper acknowledgement of the work is always to be given. What kind of an infrastructure facility, what kind of an lab environment, where that particular experiment is to be conducted, under which conditions that particular experiment study is to be conducted. All these parameters are to be acknowledged by the author. Permission authorship of an article. Permission authorship of an article means once your paper is published, that paper is the property of that particular publishing house. If you, there are some of the rights given to the author by that publishing house, check those rights. Otherwise, you need to seek permission to use your research article for some kind of an study in your future. Next is the conflict of the interest. Conflict of interest means it's an author's responsibility that he should disclose the financial and other kind of the constructive to build the results in their article. And fundamental error in the published work. Fundamental error in the published work means once your manuscript is accepted and published by the journal and volume is already released into the press and printed copies sent to the authors of that particular manuscript. If the author find out any kind of an error in that particular study, for example, if a same kind of a paragraph is to be published two times or mentioned two times in a particular page, it is the duty of the author to cooperate with the publication house and correct or retract that particular kind of an article. When we're discussing ethics, the main focus is on plagiarism. Plagiarism means the act of presenting another work or idea as your own. For example, if you're simply cut and paste the research of other research scholars into your own study. Here I have taken two examples. A simple example for easy understanding. First is this direct a research article. If it is directly caught a research from another research article, that is Japan's beautifully Mount Fuji last erupted in 1707 and is now classified as dormant, and dormant volcanoes show no sign of activity but they may erupt in the future. Means if I have chosen these sentences and simply paste that particular sentences into my research articles, means I'm simply copy and pasting that sentences of another researcher into my research work. The duty of the author is to again construct the sentences. The same sentences as written as Mount Fuji, the highest mountain in Japan, is actually a dormant volcano. Dormant means that is not active. The last time Mount Fuji erupted was in 1707 and there is always the possibility of the future eruption. Means the meaning of the whole sentences are same but the manner in which it is written is completely different. This is known as paraphrasing. Next is how do I quote another author. For example, here I have taken an example of recycling of plastic waste depend totally on the sources of the type of the plastic from where it is generated. I am citing the work of another researcher or another author, that is Panda Achitya K. ETL. ETL means number of the authors are involved into this particular kind of an study. If there are two authors, you simply mention the name of both the authors. In case of three, again the name of three authors need to be mentioned into the research article depending upon the format given by the publishing or the journal house. And if there are more than five authors are involved, then only the first author along with that ETAL. All these parameters will be covered when you are listening to the session of report writing. And plagiarism report. Plagiarism is a major issue nowadays. There are reports given into news published into the various newspaper. Here I have taken two examples, first from the Time of India and another example is Hyderabad University VC admits to plagiarism. The Vice Chancellor of the university has been in news for all the wrong reasons of the late. Most recently, he was under fire for his because use of the policy to deal with the student. While that crisis has cast a shadow on his role on an administrator, in this particular news, the VC was the first author. The research study was taken by the student, by their PhD students. The author simply added the two PhD students simply added the name of that VC, and VC didn't check the whole article and didn't clarify the plagiarism check on that particular article. But once the article faced the plagiarism, the name of the VC is in the news for all the bad reasons. Another is retraction notice of an research article. This example I have taken from the medical field. There are some journals which always present your retracted article. Retracted articles mean the article in which the plagiarism is found by publication house. They presented the retracted article on their website for some period of the time to know that these are the authors who are involved into plagiarism into this kind of the study. So when you are publishing and using the work of another researchers, you need to main focus on how do you quote or how do you cite those researcher into your research study. So these are the basic guidelines for writing a research journal article, since depending upon the type of the journal, depending upon their scientific format given by the various journal houses, and depending upon the various tools by which they check the authenticity of the work submitted by the researcher, they all vary from journal to journal. This is just a brief or the journal introduction about how to write a journal article. Is there any query related to this particular session other than the index factor? That queries you can mail me. Yes, from any center?
Hello. Ma'am, this is Amita from Dronacharya, Greater Noida.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, I want to know when we publish a research paper, so prior to the publication, the publishing house demand for a copyright of that paper.
Yes.
And after giving the I want to know that after giving the copyright of that paper and after getting that paper published in that particular journal, can I make my own research paper viral on internet? Can I upload it on ResearchGate? Can I upload it on Academia? Can I upload it on SlideShare so that the citation of my paper is increased?
Sir, it's totally dependent upon the type of the journal for which you are sending your manuscript. Some of the journal, as I have already mentioned in the slide, that there are two main issues related to the ethics of that particular journal. These are author rights and author responsibilities. Author responsibility is how you present your work for the manuscript submission, and rights. When you are submitting a manuscript to a various journal, first go through the journal aim and scope. On the website of that particular journal, there are rights mentioned. What are the rights of the author and what are the rights of the publication house? Depending upon the rights given to the author by that particular journal, you can use or cite your work. Otherwise, you need to seek permission for your own research publication also for that particular journal.
Means without permission of the publisher, I
Without
cannot.
publication, there are some journals they can't allow even you use your own research publication, because once the manuscript is published, it is the property of that particular journal, not the researcher.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any another question?
Madam, from C.B. Raman College.
Yes, sir.
Madam, can we go back to your slide of section of the paper?
Can you?
Madam,
Pardon, please, sir.
can you go to your slide section of the paper?
Yes, sir.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Hello, ma'am. Good
Yes.
evening, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir.
Myself, Dr. Kapil Tyagi from ICCT Greater Noida.
Yes.
Thank you for giving such valuable information. Actually, I want to know. I have seen many times there are a long list of journals where a single referee or single editor is editing the papers from all the fields like mechanical, electrical, chemical sciences, physical sciences, but only single editor is there.
In their editorial board, only single
Hello.
editor is there. Yes.
No, actually, I'm telling you, I have seen so many journals. There is a long list where only a single single editor or single referee is auditing all the papers from all the fields.
Then I am sure that sir, that journal is not at all authentic journal.
There are so many journals. Nowadays, there is a long list of such type of journals. I want to know: is there any check from government side or from any provision to stop these journals?
Is there any policy from the government side? No
Any
such
problem?
advancement in terms of publication for the journal articles and research articles, sir. Once they have
Actually,
got, or the RTI is to be filed by the researcher for that particular case.
Actually, I don't know if you are aware or not. There are so many journals where a single editor is editing papers from all the fields. So, if there is no check from government or any other agency to stop all this things.
No, sir. Actually, in terms of the publishing various kind of the manuscript, there are some kind of analytical tool by which you can check the authenticity of the journal. But yes, there is no check that what kind of the publication house is involved into what kind of an publication. In India, it is solely the responsibility of the author to check the authenticity of the paper.
Yeah.
And you can simply check by going to the various sites like Science Direct, elsewhere. As I have discussed, Almetric applications. On that Almetric application, if you blog a name of the journal, you will find a number of the criticisms and number of the feedback related to that particular journal by various researchers globally, by which you can judge the authenticity and ethics related to that particular journal.
Actually, ma'am, you will be surprised if people are publishing fake data, copied data, or even direct copying from
Sir,
books
if you
itself.
have clearly go through any kind of a paper for the authentic journals, you have look on the first sheet of that particular paper. There is a ISSN number given on that particular paper, and for some of the publication, there is a DOI number is to be registered on that particular paper. The articles with ISSN number and DOI number, more or less they are the authentic journals. You can put that ISS number into the Google website, and they can check the ISS number, that ISS number is published under which publication house, what is the impact factor of that particular journal, what is the citation rate of that particular journal. And in the ISSN number also, the ISSN number represents the volume of the journal, the year of the publication of the journal, and impact factor of the journal.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
We are on the half of Madam from C.V. Raman College.
Yes, sir.
Still pending.
Mm-hmm.
In that slide, I think we can include the conclusion after the result and discussion part. I think conclusion
Sir,
part.
it's in a general format given for the publication. Depending upon the type of the journal, the scientific format is vary. Acknowledgement is optional, but yes, these are the main section that need to be involved when you are writing into a publication process.
This was conclusion out of that at the end.
Results and conclusions. As there are journals in which results and conclusions, and there are journals in which only results can work.
But
This is the general format.
But again, the same question which we have asked: how can you define a national and the international journal?
Sir, I have already clarified that ISSN number and DOI number are the two units that is registering various kind of the journal. With the help of the, can you please share your mail ID with me?
Yeah, madam.
I'll share you the details.
Madam, this PADA,
TADA,
PANDA,
TANDA,
it's PAND, P for Patna,
P for Patna. Okay.
dot
Hmm.
TANMAYA,
NAYA. Okay.
at gmail.com.
It's PANDA dot TANNAYA.
No, madam. Shall I repeat?
Yes, yes, please.
It's BADA. B for Bombay. BADA.
Sir,
EANDA.
can you please note down my email ID and send your query to me? I think it's more simple.
Okay, madam, you send the thing to the coordinator.
Okay, fine, sir.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, this is Dr. Vijayalal from PITE.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, you have mentioned that S10 index. Ma'am, nowadays we are seeing I10 index citations as well. What is it?
I10 index simply represent my one research publication is cited how many times. For example, my one research article if cited as 10 times, then this is my I10 index. A single study is to be cited by various researchers, whereas H
Okay.
index is number of publications cited by various researchers. This is the basic difference.
Hello.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
just like I am having a 18 citation on my one paper, and that paper is having citation for H index and one citation for I10 index. So, what does it mean? It means H index, it has been cited by the numbers of paper and the various, what like that? I'm not able to.
H index means the lifetime achievement of any researcher. For example, if you have involved into 25 research publications and your 25 research publications are cited by number of researchers, means this is your citation rate for all your research publication. Whereas I index simply represent, for example, your one prominent research study is cited by number of researchers. That is your I10 index. How many researchers cited your that particular prominent study? That is I index.
Okay, ma'am. Second question is that that people are asking about the quality journals, how we measure the quality of journal, and where we have to submit our paper. So that's like when we are having ABDC index list, ABD journal list. So I think all our journals listed in ABDC are the quality journals.
Sir, you can simply check the authenticity of the journal by their ISSN number. You can check on Google what is. Yes, the list that is published by ABCD is sorry.
ABDC.
ABDC is the journals of authentic, or ACS publication is always a listed authentic journal in their. The major research is Scopus tool. Scopus tool represents you number of the journals that are authentic.
Yes, so just like we are having SI index journal and Scopus listed journal.
Scopus journals, yes, they are the authentic journals.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. That's all for me.
Thank you, ji. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ji.
Ma'am, I have a question. Can we publish a paper in Scopus Index journal without any sponsorship?
Yes, of course, ma'am. What kind of a sponsorship you require for the publication?
Ma'am, any journal which is includes Scopus Index, can we publish paper without any sponsorship? Is it paid or?
No, ma'am. Those are non-paid journals.
Okay.
You need not to require any kind of a sponsorship for those particular journal, or even you do not need to identify any innovative kind of a technology and out of the word thing to publish paper in those kind of the journal. Even a review article, if you have taken a study of 30 to 35 years, even that kind of an article is all is to be published under Scopus journals, international publications. For increase the citation rate of your work, number of the eminent researchers are also involved into review type of publication studies, because review type of articles are cited more by the researchers.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Just one query. When we usually appear for interviews, their interviewer generally asks that is your paper is peer reviewed or referred or being published into referred journal. What is the difference between the two?
Peer reviewed and referred journals are, sir, there are two kind of an editorial committee. First one is the peer reviewed committee and second committees are referred committee. I have already
Okay.
discussed the questions that are given by the referred committee, and peer-reviewed journals basically send you the feedback and the review related to that particular journal. This is the basic difference. More or less, they are the same.
I'm sorry,
Peer-reviewed
can you
means
repeat
the
it once more?
editorial would have same kind of an experience,
Okay, the same specialized field.
same specialized field.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.